Hare Krishna, beautiful people. Hello and welcome to the Solar Shraya podcast. We are your hosts. I am Bhakta Jake and I am joined with my friend and teacher, Balaram Shakti Das. We are devoted to bringing you ancient wisdom for the modern day. Join us as we read the Krishna book by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, and let us share with you the wonderful shelter or ashraya of our dear Lord Krishna. Please join us in the sublime process of transforming our consciousness by hearing and discussing spiritual concepts. Haribo. So, Balaram, how you doing, bud?
Hare Krishna. Yeah,
It's
joining
been,
you today from sunny Los Angeles.
yeah,
We've been here for a week. It's been really nice.
yeah.
He thinks I'm going native.
You know, I was looking for a meme that I think Parmananda had put on one time of like it shows a picture of a guy, like a hardcore guy from New York, and then like a picture of this like very well dressed, like really, like really mellow looking guy. And it says something like, uh, you know, every New Yorker 3 months after they've been in California. Oh man. So, and you have had quite a time out there, quite a ride, it seems like. Um, so you wanna talk about that a little bit?
No.
All right, okay. Well, let's move on.
I'm kidding. Man, yeah, what to say? The LA Rath Yasha is always just
Yeah,
one of my favorite moments of the year.
yeah, yeah.
It's it's just truly wonderful. We always have a contingency of Tucson devotees coming out, and so several of us get an Airbnb, usually with our Guru Dave, but he his health wasn't well enough to come.
Oh,
So
okay.
um, anyway, it's super sweet, and we do the free prasadam serve out, the second half of the free prasadam serve out every year, the Tucson crew, and it's my favorite service
Yeah,
in the world. Just because I mean, a lot of the people, maybe it's their first time, seeing this, and they're just like, "What is this?"
yeah.
This is free, and you're just giving them blessed food and good vibes, and you're like, take a little more of this, and it's that's all I can describe on the material level, but spiritually, it's like there's so much more. It's you just have to experience it. And anyone that's like, I think everyone can agree, like serving people food. We've all experienced that, but serving people food is so blissful.
It really is. It really is. It's really an amazing part of being Krishna consciousness is being, yeah, is serving food. I mean, that seems like everyone's like it. It's just such a great
You know how
ministry.
satisfying it is,
It is. It is so satisfying because you know that normally people will come to a program and they are usually kind of skittish. They're quiet, they're
Mm.
reserved because, well, like, oh, nervous, anxiety, because what have I gotten myself into? You know, I hope they don't. I'm not going to raise my hand or talk because I don't want them to talk to me, kind of a thing.
Right.
That like they don't know what they're getting into, but they know that they're gonna eat. They do know that they're gonna eat, so they're there because they're gonna eat. So when that that I don't know. Prabhu, I tell you, I sometimes, I mean, it's good to have the chanting and the word and everything, but sometimes I feel like the prasad is like the most important part of the whole program, you know? And
Yes.
I don't know if that is really correct, but sometimes I feel like that because you just, then they light up, they eat, and then they're like, oh, I get it. I understand. And you see like a real change, you know?
Mm.
Speak to that, Prabhu. I
Yeah.
mean, you know how blessed it is to give.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And food is like the universal language, right? You can go anywhere in the world and just like, please take, and people understand what you're doing. They understand the gesture, right? Whereas, high philosophy, such as what we're presenting, it's like, it's not accessible to everyone. But within the food itself, because, as you're saying, it is blessed. So what does that mean? It's that the food has vibration of love, just as a basic way of explaining, the vibration of love is in it. And everyone knows mama's home cooking tastes differently than anything else.
Yeah.
Any other food, it's like you can't go to a restaurant and get that same experience,
Mhm.
So that's what you're feeling. And when you experience that, there's an internal recognition that occurs, that it's recognizing that vibration of love. You can feel, just like anything, any gifts, or any message, you can feel when the vibration of love is present or not. But food, it's something, I mean, you're taking it into your body, you're digesting it on the most gross level. So whereas intellectual ideas, you're also metabolizing, but in a more subtle way. And it requires you know, something physiological to do that. So we say that, eating prasad is very important because you're spiritualizing your body, and your brain is also, reconfiguring. Um, yeah, and then it's, what is it reconfiguring to? It's reconfiguring to the vibration of love that's in it. Whereas if we eat food off the street, Krishna says, what is it, third chapter? Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah. He's talking about how living beings subsist off food grains. Actually, yeah, this is an important section. Um, Food grains are produced by rains. Rains are produced by performance of yajna, sacrifice.
Mm.
Yajna is performed of prescribed duties. So what is Krishna saying there? He's saying that the food we eat is carrying the vibration of sacrifice,
Mm.
which is ultimately love.
Mm.
It's like, if you love something, it means you sacrifice. Love means sacrifice. If you're not sacrificing, it's not really love. Um, because it's, what is yajna? It's giving of oneself.
Mm. Yeah.
So yeah, and then he goes on to speak about sacrifice. Those who live for the satisfaction of the senses live in vain. Pretty sure this is, maybe it's not this section.
That
Somewhere
maybe
in here he
that's
talks about offering food to the demigods.
yeah.
It's before it.
Maybe
Oh
that's
yeah.
why
Okay, it's the verse right before, the two verses right before. In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna,
mm,
will supply all necessities to you. But
mm,
he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods is, in return, is certainly a, Jake?
a blessed person.
No, opposite. someone who enjoys
Oh,
this without offering them in
oh,
return.
without offering.
So
Sorry.
it's like
Sorry.
if I were to go in your house and just take something
Yeah.
without
No.
saying, hey, this is yours, I'm going to recognize this is yours,
Right.
and I'm going to let you decide whether or not I can take it home with me. If
Got
I
me.
just take it home with me, what
You
do you
got
call
me so good on that one.
me?
Yeah. Um,
What do you call a person that does something like that?
a thief.
A thief. Yes.
Thievery.
Thievery.
Yeah.
Stena.
Yeah.
It's a Sanskrit word. So then the next verse talks about the blessed person.
Mm,
Christian says, the devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only what? Give me a second. Round two.
Sin.
Sin. It's a intense word there.
sin. I don't want to eat sin. I do not want to. I do not want to ingest sin. I do not.
It's such a visceral imagery that he's giving there.
I
And
know.
people, that's such a highly charged word, you know. Um, but what is that saying? Right? What does it mean to eat? Because as soon as we say a word like sin, we're getting into the
Is that
territory of,
a
oh, well, that's
trigger?
dogma. That's
That's a
just
trigger, right?
that's
That's what they
well,
call it.
yeah, for sure. But it's also like, how do you back, like, how you make a statement like that? It seems like the sort of statement that's just, this is our faith dogma.
Mm.
If I'm calling you a sinner, that's based on my thing, not anything actually like down to earth verifiable. You can't verify sin with a scientific instrument, right?
Mm.
What the Bhagavad-gita is doing is this third chapter, this section of the third chapter is laying out how the universe works,
Mm.
actually, starting with,
Mm.
working according to your nature,
Mm.
that basically starting with, hold on, I'm like rediscovering the Bhagavad Gita as I speak.
I know. Wow. It's so funny how it's,
Abstaining from work versus acting and, working.
yeah.
The Christian's talking about renunciation, which is very important, because it's like, okay, you're talking about sin, that's one thing, but if I'm like down to earth, what is the practical application? It's either I do something or I abstain from doing and try to like not involve myself in karmic reactions.
Mm.
Christian's saying you have to work regardless. No one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. It's such a totally down to earth verse.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
Controlling the minds by performing your work. And then he gets into he sort of like switches gears and just it comes right out, right, with the punchline. He says, work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu,
Mm.
the Supreme Lord, has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this world.
Mm.
And then he talks about the relationship between men and demigods, between human beings and higher beings.
Mm.
Right? There's human beings and there's higher beings. There's also lower beings, right? And we can be influenced by them. And so what Krishna is doing is saying that there are beings who are in charge of the various necessities of life. And he's inferring, I suppose you could say, that there are beings who are in charge of the lower non-necessities of degradation,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So if you sort of
Mm.
cooperate with the cycle of life, just of nature, you know,
Yeah.
everything will go smoothly for you. And what is that process? We're calling it sacrifice. If that's too hard of a word for you, call it whatever you want, living in harmony with nature. But it means understanding that you're not the proprietor,
Mm.
that everything is kind of on loan to you. And so you need gratitude. You need to offer everything back with the energy of gratitude.
Mm.
So
Yep.
when you do that, you are shifting your consciousness radically. It's a radical shift in consciousness because you're no longer thinking, yeah, I'm an individual, a separate individual, and life is just a whole bunch of sense objects with no subtle interrelationship. It's all matter. This is the reductionist, materialistic, scientific view that is pervading the world. And this book is shifting it at its roots. It's saying everything is interconnected. And there's no avoiding that. Krishna's saying, you can't not perform karma even for a moment. It's like you can't do anything that isn't affecting everything for a single moment. Everything you do is always interconnected and affecting the entire whole of the cosmos. It's like that's a lot of responsibility. So the nihilist, right, resolves that dilemma by saying nothing exists, therefore nothing matters, therefore no responsibility. Easy. I've let go of the weight of responsibility. The realist, or if you will, like the person who actually acknowledges reality, says, no, everything matters. And then there's someone in between that says only the things that I decide matter.
I hate to, I hate to like
But,
throw in this analogy, but I'm going to anyway. But I just had like this like picture in my mind of like the nihilist, and the nihilist is like just I got this picture of a pig in a pig pen, and how pigs just love to just roll around in the mud all day, and they eat everything, and they're like, no big deal. Life is no big deal, you know. And I don't know if there's anything to that, but that's like the picture that came to my mind just then of the nihilist saying, hey, no big deal. I just roll around it all day. I love it.
yeah.
I know that's a little harsh and a little rough, but I mean,
Hey, if that's the lifestyle you're living though, just laissez-faire, anything goes, what kind of consciousness are you developing? So what we have to understand is not only are we interconnected with everything, but the reality is subtle. Is the subtle world is the more real world. Then there's the transcendental world. That's the absolutely real world. But mind is more substantive than body. Okay, think about this. We were just talking about this last night, um, about like this science and the universe, and you, the second canto of Bhagavatam, where it's describing, like the tanmatras, the objects of the senses, the different elements, like from sound, you have ether, and then comes space. Space is produced from sound, and then you have air, fire, water, earth, right? So the five gross elements, and the distribution of gross matter throughout the cosmos, but that's only a fraction of it. And science is trying to study 5% of the world to understand everything about life. And it's refusing to acknowledge the the effect of consciousness. It's refusing to introduce the element of consciousness into the equation. And therefore, they can't appreciate that most of reality is this. I mean, I'm pointing to the head. It's like, okay,
right,
more than just the head. It's
right.
the consciousness is situated in the heart, actually.
this
it's
uh,
rooted in the heart. It pervades the whole body. But life is actually subtle. It's actually mental more than physical.
this plays straight to the concept of ahimsa.
Yeah.
Even your
and bring it
thoughts,
back around. Yeah.
even your thoughts control your karma. They control everything, right? Even though you're only thinking them, they're still doing something. And there, I love what you were saying about, like, you can't make a move without causing something to happen. There's a ripple effect of
Yeah.
everything that we do, everything, even our thoughts, even in our consciousness. Taking prasad does what? It raises your consciousness. Chanting the holy names does what? It raises your consciousness. Reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad-gita, Krishna book, what does it do? Raises your consciousness. Hanging out with other devotees raises your consciousness.
So why
So many
is
things.
this? It's connecting, it's replacing your consciousness in connection with the complete whole. Whereas things that lower your consciousness, the words used in the Gita are thievery and sin. In the 3rd chapter, what is that saying? What are both of those things implying? Is that you are reducing your consciousness to a gross physical state of like a pig who only is so self-absorbed, it doesn't have any perception that it is just taking filth into its body, and it is creating a body that is composed of filth. So that's what we do
It's
when
brutal.
we just take anything into our bodies and minds, whereas raising your vibration is about becoming conscious of your interrelation with everything. So if you're just eating anything, you have to understand it's not just the gross matter that you're eating. If it was, it wouldn't matter what you eat. And this is where the Christians go wrong. I mean, that's a whole thing, but it's like they say, oh well, everything it's all good, and it's like,
Yeah, I know.
okay,
I know.
I don't know if we can go if we have
I
the
know.
time for that one.
I will say this. I will
Oh.
say this is, like, I know that there is symbolism. There's very, very good symbolism for everything that is in the Bible. I have found in my Bible studies that there's usually the animals, everything in the Bible do represent something, and they do have like a deeper meaning, and it's a type of something else. Usually, pigs are put in with demons, unclean things, stuff like that.
Food, yeah.
Prodigal son found himself at the end of his rope when he was feeding the pigs, and that's when he said, "Oh, I gotta get out of here. I gotta go back home." So, like, read, take what you will, but once you start feeding the pigs, it's time to go home. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So anyway, taking anything in versus, because who is it? Paul, is it Saint Peter, who's talking about, it's all blessed. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yeah, Peter had a
That famous
vision.
verse that they always point to
This is why
justify
you can eat meat.
Yeah, basically. So what is, like, my understanding of that verse is like, if we're going to accept everything is blessed, what does that mean? It means we're developing Christ consciousness, which means we're developing the consciousness of Christ in everything. This is Richard Rohr's main thrust, the universal Christ. It's that everything is pervaded by spirit. It doesn't mean nothing matters. It's all spiritual. No, it means you have to cultivate spiritual vision to see your interrelation with everything and that there's much more going on beneath the surface of the material energy. There's a subtle energy. There's energetics to everything. Some things are clean, some things are unclean. You know, some things are auspicious, some things are inauspicious. Some things are going to disturb your mind, agitate it. Some things are going to make it more light. And deeper than that, there's a spiritual point of contact, you know, that in Christianity they call that Christ, the meeting point of spirit and matter, right? And in this tradition, we call that Brahman or Guru. Christ could perhaps more directly be translated as Guru. That consciousness that can enter your heart and teach you and liberate you. There's a lot. I don't mean to get into that, but point being, talking about elevating our consciousness through prasadam, through contacts with spiritual energy, contacts with Guru, with Christ, with Krishna. We are reconnecting with that consciousness of what is truly spiritual. Not just that, oh, it's all spiritual, but what is the nature of spiritual consciousness? So that I have a relationship with God.
Yes.
And above and beyond everything, you know, because Krishna breaks it down. He's like, there's demigods, right, in charge of the various necessities. It means like there's energetic, subtle principles, forces in your life that are providing things. And he goes on to say in later chapters, like, you can connect directly with them and get, you know, certain needs met from them. Just like you can do the whole, you know, astral, energetic, you know, new age, to just throw that out there. There's a lot of things, you know, a lot of practices of just like raise your energy, connect with the universe, you know, universal forces. And Jake's but there's something deeper. There's something deeper, and that's called yagya. It means you are, as a spiritual individual, you are becoming the highest version of yourself, the truest version of yourself, which is what? Which is a child of God, a part and parcel of Krishna, someone who is more than just whatever the demigods have to offer. Like, you're something so much more than that. The human being, all of the demigods, actually, they're all within us. You know, if we want to talk about, I had this realization while I was in Shavasana, actually, at a yoga event, just Friday night, that the description of the Bhagavatam, and this is so much here, but the description of the Bhagavatam is describing not outer space, but inner space. You know, it's talking about a flat earth, basically. And people are like, does that mean we believe in flat earth? No, the earth is round. It's very easily verifiable. The earth is round. Like, the moon is closer than the sun, you know.
I guess. I guess. I don't know.
No, scientific instrumentation verification is going to get easier and easier. You know, if you want to go into outer space, you know, it's getting easier and easier. John Overpriya can break that all down for you. But what the Bhagavatam is more interesting, again, the gross matter is just just a insignificant practically. The reality is subtle. And what is subtle? Mind, intelligence, false ego. That's all internal. So the Bhagavatam is describing internal reality, that there are planes of being, of consciousness, and you can travel around them. And there are different areas that you can go in your consciousness when you enter the inner space. Now, outer space, inner space is the last frontier, as has been coined.
So whoa, that might be something, actually.
That is something. It's something that we're not very aware of, because there's so much pulling our consciousness externally. This is the process of yoga. So there's two aspects of the process of yoga, if I could oversimplify it. Oversimplify a very not simple thing. Simpliful thing. There is the process of going within and connecting with all of the components thereof. And then there's the ultimate goal of yajna, of sacrifice for Vishnu, of the matter of the heart itself, which is totally independent in a sense, interdependent in another sense, with the forces of the universe, of the inner space. I mean, I'm talking a lot of abstract things, so forgive me if I'm losing you here.
It's okay, because it wouldn't be a show if we didn't get into the deep abstract thoughts. If that's what you call them.
Validating
I mean,
my train of thought.
Where this is a show where, like, once again, to use a Bible reference, iron sharpens iron, you know. And so, you know, we're you know, it's good for you, it's good for me. We're putting the ideas out there into the ether, into the space. So yes, it's very nice.
Yeah, it's like I'm kind of thinking out loud oftentimes, so it's not like I've got the absolute word on this. It's opening a conversation that hopefully, and that will only continue. But it's like there's the idea of there's the energetic, subtle component of reality, which is majority of reality, you know, and that's what Krishna is talking about in Karma Yoga. He's saying you're going to be working with this energy a whole lot, so kind of like get accustomed to that and understand your relationship with the forces of the universe that are within you, right? That are undeniable, that you can't not affect at any moment. It's not like you just roll in the pig pen and it doesn't have any bearing on your mind and this inner world. No, it's direct everything. But there's something deeper. And that is that if you recognize your true nature, which is a child of God, which is a spark of Brahman, spark of spirit. Spirit doesn't just mean the inner energy. That's not what spirit is. Most people, when they think spirit, they think, oh, just the spirit of something, the energy, like the thing that, you know, that inner world. Yeah, that's spirit. No, that's not spirit. Spirit is God's inner worlds, not our inner. It's God's, which is there in the heart, you know. So real spirituality is like going beyond all of that and becoming the highest version of yourself by connecting with the deepest level of reality. And that's a very simple thing, right? It's just recognizing the ultimate source, not just the demigods, not just the forces of the universe, what to speak of, not just the outer forces of the world, thinking, oh, this waiter brought me a food, this meal. No, like that came from a farm, that came, you know, certain energetic, you know, consciousness was put into that. But ultimately, if you recognize, no, this is coming from God, this is coming from Krishna. Well, it's coming from Vishnu. But if I offer it to Krishna, then it's coming from Krishna. And it's like, if you know, you know. Sort of thing.
Yeah. And that is prasad, is food that is offered to Krishna, and then you enjoy. So you take boga, which is whatever you made, and you put it on your altar, and you say some prayers, and you offer it. You leave it there for, you know, 10 minutes or however long you feel like it should be there. And then I mean, I would say like 10 minutes is good.
However long it would take someone to eat it.
Yeah. 10, 15 minutes, you know. And then it's this process. And then you take, and, you know, then you can enjoy it, you know. But it's a thing of, like, once again, you say your prayers before you eat. That blesses the food. You offer up your food to God, and then you enjoy. So and you can do it with anything. You can go out and outside and find a flower and offer that. You can go and get some water and offer that. You can find a leaf and offer that. And this is all offerings. This is all really a form of prasad, even though you're not going to eat the flower, you're not going to eat the leaf, you might drink the water, you might not, but still it's prasad because it's you acknowledging your devotion and your love towards God and not being the enjoyer. You are not the enjoyer, he is. So you give it to him, and that is sacrifice. It shows devotion. So yeah, this is why when you go to a temple, it's very clean and very colorful and very beautiful, and it smells beautiful. And once you walk through the doors, your consciousness starts to change once you walk through the door. Usually, I mean, if you're like super sensitive like me, it starts to change the minute you step on the property. You're like, whoa, what's happening? What's happening? You know? And then when you get to the door, it's like, oh. And then when you take darshan of the Lord, then it's like, I am in bliss. I am in bliss. That's
Spiritual atmosphere.
Yeah. That's why I like to keep my house nice and clean. I keep my altar nice and clean. I keep everything very nice and clean. And I place things on the altar, and yeah. And you'll see by doing these little things, it will resonate to the rest of your life, and you will feel clean and you will be clean. And that when people see you, they're like, what is it about this guy? Why do I like this guy? You know, out of all these people, why this one? And it's because you're having an effect on their consciousness, even when you walk down the street here in good old Canandaigua, New York. The Canandaiguans, like, what's up with this guy? Who is this guy?
Yeah.
What manner of man is this?
Yeah. It's the subtle energy, that's emanating, and it's like, yeah, they're saying what's up with it because we don't have the language yet, nor the sensibility per se to recognize what we're feeling versus, just relying on what we're seeing. Don't judge a book by its cover, right? It's from the Bible. Am I right?
That might
right?
be,
I'm not sure where that's
that might be one of those things. Like, there's a lot of little sayings like that are attributed to the Bible, but like they're not in the Bible. Yeah. Oh,
no. Okay.
yep. We got the thumbs down. Thumbs down. There's a whole bunch of them like that. Like
there's something like that, though.
yeah. There's like Thomas Jefferson is always like giving all these like like he said a bunch of stuff. Benjamin Franklin and all those guys, they said a bunch of stuff.
Anyway,
So,
it's like,
yeah.
well, again, we have an inner world, and the yoga is about bringing that inner world into harmony. Bhagavad-gita is teaching us how to bring it into the highest harmony, because all of the inner forces, the demigods, as we call them, devas, higher forces, are all subjects of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, the one who has many names, right? But who is the supreme controller, right? Bhoktaram Nirgatapasam, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, Suridam Sarvabhutanam, Gyatva Mam Shantam Richati, right? One who knows that Supreme Lord, who is the one, the Bhoktaram, who is the one who is enjoying the Bhoga. Whether or not you offer it to Krishna, it's like he is the soul of the universe. In the Bible, he is known as the I am. He told Moses, go tell them that the I am sent you. What does that mean? It means that's the soul of the universe. the soul of the universe. And when Moses told them that, they understood, like, oh, you're making a big claim. You're making a big claim that the I am saying, so, and they understood that. We don't understand that as much, that there is a soul of the universe. But anyway,
Yeah.
recognizing that you're part of that, and that all of the forces of the universe are his limbs, right? If they're the soul of the universe, that means everything is like his limbs, his energy, and so forth. And when we place him on the throne in our heart, all of those forces like come into order. If we don't, it's like we can try to bring order to the cosmic forces within us, right? And we may or may not be somewhat successful in that, but we won't be able to balance all of them because there's just too many contradictions. There's too many paradoxes in the universe. I mean, think about that, right, Jake? It's like, how good are you, like, can you be at bringing order and harmony into your worlds without God? But it's like, as soon as you surrender to a higher power, everything just comes into alignment, right? So, okay, Andre has something to say.
Yes, Andre, go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Okay, so the quote, like, don't judge a book by its cover, it's attributed to many writers, whether it be newspaper, literature, books written, even, African, proverbs and quotes. So if you're wanting to reference the Judeo-Christian Bible in First Samuel chapter 16, verse 7. So I don't know if you know what's going on in the book of Samuel. In chapter 16, David is anointed king. So we're talking about that. And it says, but the Lord says to Samuel, quote, do not look at his appearance or at his physical stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord does not see as man sees. For man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart, end quote. So maybe that's what you were thinking of. I'm not quite sure, but there you
That's
go.
a beautiful example, though. And if either of you want to speak something, I mean, that's a great question.
I mean, that's a nice.
That's a
That's a nice. That's so nice.
yeah, David, and I mean, it's such a good what's the word? Analog or analog story.
Digital, analog,
Analogous.
analogous.
Well, no, what's the word for like a story?
Analogy, parable.
No, it's on the tip of my tongue now too. Yeah. Oh.
It's such a good story to illustrate. I know, Jake. That's freaking me out. That you've got Samuel, or I'm sorry, you've got David, who's like the youngest brother, and you've got all of these other brothers that represent these different archetypes that we can take, that is sort of like postures of the psyche, you could say, to continue this train of thought, that have these different quote unquote virtues.
Allegory.
Thank you.
Round of applause.
Yeah. So okay, so we can draw from the allegory that our focus is, with our eyes, right? We're relying on our eyes to see, and make discernments about the worlds. But the Lord says to Samuel, don't rely on your eyes, because the Lord is interested in what's in the heart. So this whole process of yajna, of sacrifice, of yoga, is a matter of the heart. It's like, what are the contents of your heart? It has no bearing on what's going on even in your subtle world, in your interior world, much less does it have anything to do with your physical world or body. Right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Anyone can practice bhakti yoga, whether you're in a pig pen or a penthouse. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
From the pig pen to the penthouse.
Yeah. from
Put that
the
on a t-shirt. Solar Shrive podcast from Pigpen to Penthouse.
Yeah. Another one is an old preacher told me this one, from the guttermost to the uppermost.
Right. We brought that up in a show before.
Yeah, yeah.
That's good.
That's kind of like the same thing, I
It's
guess.
kind of exactly.
I mean, it's kind of cool.
Okay, so we've, I think, thoroughly, hopefully, not lost all of our viewers,
Yeah.
boring them with
Well,
repetitiveness, but let's
yep.
let's get into our prayers in the book here.
Yes. Yes.
There's a theme somewhat related, I think.
Yes, it is. It actually is.
Because it's going to talk about Putana as a, Mayavadi theory, materialism. So we'll make a link in there. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine. Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Bring up the text.
Just thinking how the essence of everything, we're talking about is just right there in that first mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It's like Om, recognizing all the energy of the cosmos and our position as a spark of spirit, and just giving that all to Vasudev, to Krishna.
Yeah.
Just, right there. That's, if you have that, you have everything. You have everything. And this whole book is going to explain how surrendering to Vasudev, to Krishna, the son of Vasudev, right, who we've been reading about, Vasudev, Krishna, another name for Krishna, is the safest hedge bet. You can hedge all your bets on Krishna because he'll absolutely never let you down. And all of the force, all the demigods are totally subservient to him, right? And all the forces that try to forget or fight back, push back against the authority of the Supreme Lord get vanquished.
Yeah.
And Prabhupada is going to reference that very Gita verse, 8.6, right? Purtranaya sadhanam vinashaya chaduskritam. He protects the sadhus, he vanquishes the demons.
Yeah, he does. We're going to learn all about that pretty soon here.
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. Let me get into this text real quick for the beautiful people watching.
Before.
Okay. Putana's understanding is very significant.
Why don't you just read the last sentence of the previous paragraph so we know what he's referencing?
Yeah. So this is chapter 6 of the Krishna book. And okay, so we left off with Putana has come in and she is very beautiful right now, and she's kind of like standing over Krishna, baby, sweet baby Krishna,
Yeah,
in
the
his small
cliffhanger.
bed. And so this, like demonic entity, this witch, Putana, the killer of many, many children, found baby Krishna laying on a small bed, and she could at once perceive that the baby was hiding his unparalleled potencies, which resembled fire covered by ashes. Putana thought, this child is so powerful that he can destroy the whole universe immediately, which is, I mean, you would think that by, like you would, at that point, you would maybe, as a demon,
Back off.
just, okay, maybe,
Maybe.
maybe not today, I'll go kill some normal kids somewhere, I mean, at that point you would think that, but here we go. Putina's under yeah, Putina's understanding is very significant. So even the demons know, whoa, this dude is like the real deal here. We're talking about number one stunner of the universe, okay? The supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna, is situated in everyone's heart. It is stated in the Bhagavad-gita that he gives one necessary intelligence, and he also causes one to forget. Putana was immediately aware that the child whom she was observing in the house of Nanda Maharaj was the supreme personality of Godhead himself. He was lying there as a small boy, but that does not mean he was less powerful. The materialistic theory that God worship is anthropomorphic is not correct. No living being can become God by undergoing meditation or austerities. God is always God. Krishna,
But do we all know what anthropomorphic means?
you know what? I don't.
Yeah, so maybe pause real quick. So anthropo means human, right? You've
Oh,
got
yes.
anthro, what are other words that
Anthro,
anthropod
anthro, anthology,
and anthropology, right?
anthropology.
Yeah. So that's human being. So morphic means you are attributing human characteristics to something that isn't human, such
Hmm.
as animals. So like when you see like cartoons that are like animal characters that are talking and like putting on clothes and going to work, that's anthropomorphic. You're making an animal into a human, right? Like Animal Farm, right?
Hmm.
So, but it can also be God. Anything that's not even like a table or something. You give it a voice, and so that's like, oh, that's anthropomorphism. We've actually discussed this in a really early episode,
Hmm.
uh, when we were talking about
Hmm.
that the Vedic conception is everything is personal. If I'm remembering correctly.
Wow.
Anyway, that to attribute they think that God is just supreme spirit, and if you attribute human characteristics to him, that's anthropomorphism. It's like superimposing something that didn't inherently exist in God. But it's like, actually, no, it's kind of the other way around. It's like humans are the anthropomorphism of God because we're made in his image. But what Prabhupada is, that's a just a food for thought.
Wow.
What Prabhupada is saying here, materialistic theory that God worship is anthropomorphic is not correct. So what are you understanding with what is being said here?
That when
It's like if you were to attribute a human characteristic to God and say, okay, we believe that God is Krishna. Krishna is God.
Yeah.
Yeah, more accurate that Krishna is God. That means, Krishna has these different human characteristics, and so that makes him subject to humanity or to
Hmm.
being human. It's not the case. Prabhupada is saying God is always God. Just because he's in a human form doesn't make him less God.
Hmm. Got it.
Is that making any sense?
Oh,
There's
absolutely.
more to that than I'm speaking to right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, there really is. Let me get through this paragraph very quickly because I
I
do want
think
to.
I'd like you to do 2 paragraphs. But anyway, just, yeah,
Yeah,
please keep going.
okay. So anthropomorphic is not correct. No living being can become God by undergoing meditation or austerities. God is always God. Krishna as a baby is as complete as he is as a full-fledged youth. The Mayavada theory holds that the living entity was formerly God, but has now become overwhelmed by the influence of Maya. Therefore, the Mayavadis say that presently he is not God, but when the influence of Maya is taken away, he will again become God. This theory cannot be applied to the
I knew.
the minute living entities. The living entities are minute parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are minute particles or sparks of the original fire. So these sparks can be covered by the influence of Maya, but the original fire, Krishna, cannot. Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, even from the beginning of his appearance in the house of Vasudev and Devaki.
Okay, let's stop there.
Yes.
So, yeah, so this is important to understand the Mayavad theory. So, yeah. So if we look in chapter 7 real quick, because we have 5 minutes, Krishna says in verse 24, unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small intelligence, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. What is that saying? The Mayavad theory is basically saying that all forms, all personalities are impositions onto just formless energy, right? That is the supreme reality. The reality is that everything is basically illusion, and due to interaction of energy of the universe, that the Brahman, the God, is covered by Maya, because Maya is the ultimate reality, means illusory energy, and then everything is just illusion. It's a nihilistic view of the world.
So, do I know any Mayavadis? I'm trying to
Probably
think
not.
of who would be a Mayavadi that I know.
Well, it's our teachers in Mayapur. Um, we talked about this, and they said, like, to be a true atheist is like really difficult. You're not really going to find that, because a true atheist doesn't believe in anything. And it's like, anything. Everything is illusion, actually. And it's like, you have to be either really dumb or really crazy. Actually, even being really dumb, you can't. You have to be kind of really smart, like too smart for your own good. So I don't know if we know any true Mayavadis, but anyone who says that Krishna is a form that is not everlasting and imperishable, meaning it's like what we call God, which is everything and everyone. This is speaking, the atheist speaking, assumed a form that is illusory, that is composed of Maya. That Krishna's form is Maya, just as your form and my form is Maya. And that beyond that, a priori to that, is just God or whatever, but that Maya is a superior force. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Mayavadis are more like God can't be real because they think that God is like a person, that he's like in the like kind of like the human form that Krishna took, was one of his forms, was like a cowherd boy or whatever, you know. He was
And that
a
if
king at one point, you know.
you can also realize that you're God, if you just remove. So well, Prabhupada's making a very important point, that this chapter is proving that Krishna didn't become God. He was God from the very beginning. He had all of his potencies, even in the form of a baby. And it's like hard for us to imagine. It's like if you're a Mayavadi, it's like how could someone realize their God nature? So it's saying God nature is superior. Krishna's saying my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. So it's like Krishna is always Krishna. This is a pretty huge topic.
Yeah, this is
We won't be able to cover
this is
it.
like, it covers duality, it covers impersonalism versus personalism, it covers, yeah, pretty wide expanse of theological debate. um
So
so
I'll make one kind of concluding with the last sentences that Prabhupada is saying here, is you can't just, yeah, it's okay. You can't just, if you just take away the influence of Maya, then you become God, right? And that Krishna is just a certain personality that was in a very elevated mode of goodness, and therefore he wasn't as covered over by Maya, and we're the same. So, what the Bhagavad-gita is teaching you about devotion isn't to a particular being, but it's just to that spirit that is covered over in you right now. And that's God, and that's all, everyone and everything. No, it doesn't work like that. We are a minute spark of spiritual energy, and Krishna is the complete whole. He's the sun, we're the rays of the sun, and we have a relationship with that. And this is tying full circle the whole conversation, from the beginning of the show. Yagya, sacrifice, is you have a relationship with everything. And the ultimate realization of that relationship is that you are a child of God and he is controlling everything. And when we offer ourselves in devotion, we realize our truest, highest version of ourselves. And everything in our life just works out. But if you rather deny the existence of a supreme Lord and say everything is on the same platform, you'll never get there, because yeah, you become that. And there's no way that you can control anything in your life.
and you are like pig.
Yeah. Yeah, you become like a pig.
Was that too much? Sorry guys, I feel like I can be a little too external sometimes.
No,
Sorry.
that's good. That's good.
Okay, I'm sorry. So thank you once
Krishna
again.
is always Krishna.
Yes,
There's so it's like
I know.
just remember the end of the last episode. It's like
I know.
what this story is teaching us is
I
so
had a feeling
important.
it was going to be like this today too. I had a
Oh,
feeling.
it's
Like,
so
is this going to
important.
be a 2-hour episode?
No, I promise. It's so because the importance of the first story of Krishna here is that no matter what, I've got you covered. Krishna is saying whether or not you realize Putana, whether or not you're able to see the demon infiltrating the house, I've got you covered. I am the supreme Godhead. Even in the form of a baby, I can annihilate the whole universe. I can just end it. Like it is not outside of my grasp. So taking shelter of Krishna begins from the place of Krishna intervening in your life without you even knowing how to ask for it. Isn't it, Andre, right? Without you even knowing how to ask for Krishna's help. He's like, don't worry, I got you. This is Krishna. Is that okay?
Yes, that is very good. Very good. Very lively show we had today. I want to thank our viewers. I want to thank all the people on our WhatsApp group. I want to thank you personally, viewer who's watching right now. And we're going to end the show by chanting the Maha Mantra 3 times. Please like it and subscribe. Your support really does help this show grow, and it helps us to get this positive message out to the people. We feel like this is a very important message for these days that we are living in this age that we are living in. Prabhu, let's chant the Hare Krishna 3 times for the beautiful people.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you again for watching, and thanks for putting up with us, and we will catch you next time. Hare Krishna. Haribo.
Haribo.